Sometimes people tell me there are already so many coaches. Why should I become a coach, or is there enough space on the market? That's really not my approach. Like when you ask yourself this question, it means you're looking outside. It's an outside approach. I have an inside approach. Do you feel called to do that profession? Do you have an intuition telling you like that's the next step for you? Do you feel at ease when you're supporting people? Do you feel like that's something you would like to spend more time on, or your days? That's driving you. It's not, oh, there are opportunities on the market or there are not. Because I believe if that's your path, then you will find a way to make it work. I really believe if we do steps that are aligned with our soul's path, who we are, our talents, then doors are going to open up. Welcome to the inner space. This is for you if you need encouragement to be more yourself and explore your own path. Maybe because you feel different, too sensitive, or just not able to do things as everyone else seems to. There is a way, and it's your unique way. I'm Gloria Jansen. I am a coach, a healing artist, and a surfer. I am here to help you ride the waves of life, work, and business to find that deeper alignment with your creative and sensitive soul. If this feels like you, I invite you to know yourself better, feel all the emotions, and trust yourself, so you experience the freedom and fulfillment of being and doing you. Subscribe now to catch the next wave to the inner space, where authenticity sets you free. This episode is for you if you are considering coaching as a profession for you and you are wondering like, can I become a coach? Is there still space to become a coach? Is that a profession for me? How does it look like? And I'm recording this episode because I regularly get asked questions around how it looks like to be a coach. How does my daily life look like? And I thought, instead of making individual responses, let's do an episode. And that's why I'm recording it. It's a bit different than what I usually share, though it might be helpful for you if you are considering this profession and beyond, like a bit of my mindset around professional realignment, because I support a lot of people to create a path that is aligned with who they are, their talents, their passions. Because, hey, you spend so much time at work, let's make it enjoyable. You don't want to waste that precious time. So, ready to go. Here we are. I am sharing right now as I am recording this episode after 6 years, a bit more than 6 years being a coach. And I can tell you a bit about my story, how I came to coaching. I didn't know much about that profession, to be honest. Before enrolling into a training, I knew about like being a psychologist, but that didn't feel very aligned for me, especially because I had studied already 6 years. I had been working in another job before I was doing fundraising for the art sector mostly. And I was like, okay, psychologist, you would need to study, I don't know how many years, but I was not ready to study again that much. And with coaching, what is great is you can take a certification. You have everything on the market. I would say some promise you in 7 days to become a coach, which is a bit crazy. Or some certification take 2 years, some 6 months, some are over the weekends. You really have everything that you can really adjust to how you would like to learn, to your agenda. Maybe you are working next to training yourself. You can really adapt it. You will hear, as I will talk about it later, the most important thing is the training, of course, but it's going to be your embodiment. How far you are, I would say, yourself in your life with everything you're going to support your clients with, because the further you are, the further you can bring your clients. And that's a key element about, for me, being a good and a great coach. So if I come back to like, how did I consider coaching? I had quitted my job as a fundraiser and I was wondering, like, what am I going to do with my life? I would need another episode to tell a bit more about the context. But the only thing I knew is like I want to work more with human, like around the human part. I was, of course, already in a relationship with people through my job before and I loved it. But I was like, no, I want either to go into human resources, something, let's see how it looks like. I didn't know. And I actually crossed the path of a coach. She was coming like for a few months into the organization where I was working, and we had a few conversations. And finally, she did a strength assessment, which means like really looking at what am I good at and what could be professions related to using my skills and my strengths. And I was lucky enough that she also saw me working in the organization I worked. So she really had an insightful perspective on who I was. And coaching was one of the professions we talked about at the end of our session. And just that session with her was immensely helpful. That was the day, for the first time, I experienced the fact that you have people who can help you find out your strengths. I didn't know that before. I had heard, as I said before, about, and I had also consulted psychologists, so I knew their area of work, but I didn't know, wow, there are people who can have a professional look at who you are and help you develop in your career. And from the moment that I knew that, I was like, shit, I should have known that before. I should have made that experience before, because I had spent, I would say, more than 1 year, maybe a bit less, since I had, well, yeah, more than 1 year, I had quitted my job. I didn't know what to do. And even at the end, when I was working, I was like, I feel I need something else, but I didn't know what. So just now, but you know it probably already if you're listening to this podcast, that you have people who can help you find out yeah, better who you are and how you can express yourself professionally so that it feels good. And from that session, it stayed inside of my mind. And I did something I recommend a lot to my clients, is like doing interviews with people who are doing the profession you're considering. So as you interview them and different people, you get a sense for the profession. And that's what I did with several coaches in France, in Germany, in the UK. I asked every time what was the training they did. And at some point, someone recommended me a training, and I saw, to be honest, it's like, okay, that's convenient. It started in a month, and how it was set up, it felt doable for me. It was in London. And honestly, I was doubting. I was like, should I do it or not? I've never done a coaching session really beyond the one I had done with a coach. I didn't know much about the training, just what had been shared by the person doing the training. But to be honest, I didn't know if it would suit me. I didn't know if I would like it. So I would say, ideally, if you have been already coached, and maybe you have been coached by me, then it's going to be helpful, because it gives you an insight already in the profession by yourself making the experience. I had only had one session, but that was already great. And I just jumped into the training. I did it. And the great thing is I chose to be trained in the UK. And if I compare it to France, I'm happy I didn't do it in France. I also didn't want to do it in France. Is many trainings in France are very theoretical first and then practical. It means you get the theory for months, weeks. You even have to write a thesis without having coached anyone. And that doesn't make any sense for me. That's why I love Anglo-Saxon countries, is because the practice is already at the beginning. And in the very first week where I did my coaching training, we were encouraged to start coaching people, to just implement the knowledge we were learning every week. And I had asked a few friends from France who would be interested in getting some coaching sessions. And I did my first coaching session, and you can't imagine. I did the session, I was like, whoa, this feels so easy. I can see I have an impact, and I have done only 1 week of coaching training, and it feels already me. And that was for me the moment where I was like, oof, that was a good decision to do the training. But before, I didn't know, but I had to jump. I made the experience, and that confirmed, like, wow, this is really something I'm good at. Now, you might be more advanced as you're listening to this episode as I am. Maybe you've already seen that people come to you for advice. People like to get your insights, support, that maybe you've done that experience also through other ways than coaching, but that's already a good indicator how easy it feels for you to help people, how easy it is for you to listen and they feel listened. And the skills I had already, I wasn't aware of them before doing that session. That's why also a coach can help you to be aware of them. And that's how I started this journey. So I did the training, and then once I had finished the training, I was like, okay, I love this job. Now, if I want to be a coach, oh, I need to create my business. And that's how it started. And I'm like, okay, so then I need to create my business. So I didn't have any business skills, really nothing. It's like, okay, so how do I build a business? And then that was an entire other journey. So for me, and I believe for many people, I'm recording this episode around what does it mean to be a coach? How does it look like? But it's so intertwined with being a business owner, having your business. I could spend as much time on coaching as on having a coaching business. Though, because this episode is more about coaching, I'm going to focus a bit more around that, but I'm also going to talk about the business side, because usually when people come to me and ask me questions, at some point the question is, beside like what training did you do? And I'm going to respond to that to give an advice. The question that follows or comes a bit later in the discussion is like, when did you make a living from coaching? Is it possible? So yes, it's very tied to the business side, because of course you want first to use what you've learned. You want to do coaching sessions because that's something you love. At least I hope so. If you decide to do a training, then you are going to make everything to make it happen. So there is also the business side, which is another journey. If I go back to the question, what training maybe I could recommend, I would say it depends on who you are. Again, I cannot give a general advice. I choose a training more intuitively. And then at some point I was like, oh, maybe did I choose the right training? Maybe I should have chosen another training which was certified by the International Coaching Federation, ICF. That's something you might consider if you want to work in corporations, because when it's certified by the ICF, you have more recognition, I would say, by corporations, maybe by some clients. And I didn't do that because I didn't know about it. That's maybe something you want to consider. Though in the end, afterwards, like, I didn't realize it's straight, but the training I did was very much based on intuition. And this is how I mostly coach today. So I feel that was actually very aligned to supporting my natural skills. But maybe you want to do coaching that emphasizes on neurosciences, because you're more into the science aspect. And I know coaches which are huge on explaining with so much depth. I do it as well, but not as much depth into like exactly how the brain operates and really the science behind. I like to do it because I'm also interested in it, but I emphasize more on the intuition side, in the sense of I am very much a coach who is super personal and specific to you. I don't like to give general responses, because that's something you can read in a book. You can find out in other ways. I want to have something that is very specific to your problem, your situation, and what you need to do so that it helps you. That's why it's very much also based on who you are and how I sense what's going on for you. If you're asking yourself, like, what kind of training, I would ask myself, like, what kind of coaching do I see myself doing? Is it maybe also more spiritual, because there are also more spiritual coaching trainings? Is it more science-based? Do I want to do it in an English-speaking country, in my own language? Yeah, that's all things you can consider. No, also depending on the certifications you choose, you have also access to a network, other people, maybe the people with whom you do the training. So that's what I would consider for the training. Now, how does my daily life look like? Because that's a question I often get asked as well. I'm going to share you like my life before having a baby, because now as I'm recording, I became a mom. I'm in the first year still of postpartum. So I decided to really slow down. Generally, I'm working, I would say, an average 60%. So I'm working less than I worked before. What I'm going to share is going to be more about full time. coaching. But you could also consider, if you have a job as well and you want to have the financial security when you start, and you can consider doing a few coaching sessions per week, maybe in the evening, on the weekends. Again, I would say it depends on your energy type in human design. That's another area where I got trained later on to understand how your energy operates. And also what I see often, and that's a bit the problem, people come to me, they're already quite exhausted from their work because what they're doing is not aligned anymore with who they are. That's why they come to me. But then it's hard to find some energy for other things. And sometimes for some of them, it will mean it's better to quit where they are so that they can get some fresh air again and energy to do then something they like. So again, it's very, very much depending on where you're at. But my daily life, how it looks like if I were to describe before having a baby, full-time work, I do, or I did usually 3-4 sessions per day, sessions that last 1 hour to 1 hour and a half, not more, to be honest, because the quality at which I work, if I were to do more sessions, I could not hold the energy. I really want to be super present and do great support as I'm working with my clients. So you can imagine that 3-4 sessions, 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, it's half a day. Then of course you take breaks in between, you might prepare something. Like it depends on what the session is going to be about. For example, when I do human design reading, I need to have work information so that I can prepare. But let's say half of the day, more or less, I'm really with clients. Then what do I do the rest of the time? I spend time on communication. That's a big thing, like creating content. Before having my podcast, I would mostly like write posts, record some video, do interviews, podcast episodes in other people's podcasts. Like all the communication aspect is a big part of my work. I would say again also because that's something I've learned to love, because initially when I started my business and I had to post online because and I have to be precise about that, because I decided to have an online business, a coaching business that is physical with a studio where you have clients in maybe one city or next to where you live, looks very different than an online business. That's something I have to say. I decided to have an online business because as I discovered coaching, I discovered that it could be online, and I had another dream, which was traveling around the world. And I was like, wow, I can combine both. That was really one of my dreams, and I did it. And because I decided to have an online business, if you don't do online communication, you're not visible online, you can't get clients, which is different when you have a physical business. It really is a very different experience because you might go to doctors where you live, maybe psychologists, like you can find other professionals and say, okay, I just opened my studio, I'm here, make partnerships, collaborations. So it's a different way of communicating. You still have to communicate, but maybe less online. Even though every business today, a lot have an online presence. So if I go back to communicating, as I started to post on social media at the beginning, it was very hard. Like it took me hours to write a post. I was like doubting, like, is it interesting or not? It was, wow, so much work, so much work. And I reassure you, the more you do it, like everything, you train yourself, it gets easier. You know how to be in your flow. Also here I can tell you, if you know your human design, you get much faster to a way of communicating that is aligned. And I've learned, I would say, probably over the first year, I can't remember, to be honest, maybe the first 2 years, I don't know, to be more and more familiar with communicating. And today, to tell you the process from almost like it felt so uncomfortable to do online communication, really so uncomfortable. It was really pushing myself every time, to now today I love it. And it's almost, I really learned to love sharing my opinion, my perspective. I love doing that podcast that you're listening to. I love to write. I love to share my insights. It's something that is part of my life and my job like as much as being a coach. So I would say I am a coach and I am a communicator. And that's something I love, really. So that's like the two main areas. What is behind for me is the idea of creation. I love to create. I'm a creator, if I had to describe myself, even though that no one can relate to. If I say I'm a coach, I'm like, okay, now I know how you can be useful to me. But I'm a creator. And if I create content, communication, if I create sessions, so that's another part where in my daily life I spend time. Here also it will depend on what you will choose in terms of communication. If you do a podcast, you might spend time editing. Maybe you hire someone who does it for you. Here the task will depend on how you organize yourself. Then another part where I spend time that I love is learning. Like every day I spend time learning something. Every day. That's amazing, especially for the people who are my client, who love to learn and who need new things every day. And every day I'm taking time for education. So either I'm doing a training, like for example, when I did my human design certification, Gene Keys certification, every year I do trainings. So that's also something to release the pressure on the first training you might choose as a coach. Like, know that it's just the first one. You're going to do other ones. I'm sure if you like the profession, I'm sure you're going to add skills over the years. Maybe you will do hypnotherapy, maybe you will do somatic work. Like, everything is possible, and so that you develop your skills area. And that's something that is fantastic. You keep on growing. And it's super important, as I said at the beginning, because the more you grow, the more your clients can grow. It's important to earn money, also to be able to pay trainings. Not only to pay your life, but to be able to pay trainings so that you become a better coach every time for your clients. So that's like another part that I love. I said coaching is something I discovered from the beginning, and that is really what I love. And luckily, otherwise I would not do that profession. Then I discovered communication is something I learned to love. Education is something I loved also from the beginning. And usually I would say coaches love also to learn more about personal development, grow themselves. So that's usually not a problem. What I don't like, and I don't know how much other people like it or not, is all the administrative part, the legal part. You have to make sure you take time to be legally correct in terms of general conditions on your website, your contracts, all these things. But you can hire a lawyer. So that's one way to move forward, but still you need to take time for that. You need to take time for all the admin signs in terms of invoicing, making sure everything is smooth. So that's something you need to take time. You need to take time for all the accounting part, like what are the expenditures, what are the incomes. Make sure also you're compliant depending on where your business is, because that's different from country to country. I know about that because I first opened my business in France and then closed it and opened it in the US. And wow, that has, for example, taken me so much energy, and I'm still learning to be compliant in the US, and that's an entire journey. And all the little things, you can't imagine how many, like, okay, I need to have that to open the bank account, then I need to do that to have, I don't know, a tax number, then I need to be here because I need to declare taxes for my customers who are in Europe and who pay the VAT and then pay it to every state, though luckily now in Europe there is a common scheme. So it's like all these things for me, again, that's me. Other people don't have problem with that. But that's exhausting to me. That's really taking my energy. So I need to be very wise in when I do these tasks, and they take me much more time than other tasks and energy. But that's part of it. Like, that's part of having a business. So all the admin side. And then there is another side, which also I would say I'm learning to grow into every year, is the sales side. Because if you don't sell your services, like, no one will buy. That's part of the process. Like, if you don't know you can buy, I don't know, food in the supermarket, you won't be able to go there and buy food. It's like sales is another part, and that I am happy that in the first year of having my business, I would say 5 months, 4 months after opening it, I decided to do a first business course. That's something I would highly recommend you. So one is choosing a training that suits you in terms of coaching. And maybe it's not coaching, maybe it's a sophrology training, maybe it's hypnosis, like you adjusted, but it's more in the area of self-actualization work. And if you are not familiar to having a business, maybe you don't have one today, you don't have specifically skills, do also business training. That will speed up things a lot. And I'm very happy I did it, because it's so funny when I think back. I was like, I had my business, and like, how do you make clients? And for me, it felt like a mystery, a real mystery. I really remember like this feeling of, and like when they were selling businesses services to me, I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So that felt so attractive to me, because I had no idea on how to attract clients. And now I can tell you it's much more simple. It doesn't mean easy than you think. Like, basically, having clients is about making sure you are visible so people know what you're offering. So you need to have clarity around your services, and finding people who are looking for that, and then finding a way for them to pay you. Like, the process is very much a human relationship. And that's something I'm going to talk about later, the work you have to do is more about your positioning and who you are as a coach and what's exactly your services. Because one thing is learning to become a coach, and usually you get general skills about coaching. And at the end of the training, I was like, oh, wow, I can coach anyone, because that's true. I would want everyone to know what I've learned. But if you stay at this general level, in terms of business, this is not a good idea, because then what makes you different from another coach? Especially now, things have evolved now I've been 6 years in business, or even a bit more. Now, I don't know if it's more competitive, but if you want to succeed, you really need to be specific around your specific talents as a coach. And that the work you will need to do over, ideally, the first year of your business, maybe more. And that comes also with experience, that's fine. But knowing what makes you be a different coach than others. And for that, again, your human design, your gene keys hold many answers, and also your past experiences. I did a session with someone exactly around that, like finding out what's specifically in her design and gene keys about how she does her coaching and how should her business look like. And then in terms of wording, like what would be a way for her to express herself that really reflects who she is. So that's again an example, because I help also business entrepreneurs around more the mindset work, emotional work, and defining and having clarity around who they are, how they work. I'm really not into business around the algorithm for LinkedIn or Instagram. That's really not something I'm interested in. I'm not specifically good at, so I prefer to give that to other people. But that's to show you also the business skills you will need to develop. And I believe it's one of the most challenging things. And when I started, I thought, okay, that's maybe the first year or the first years that business is going to be hard. But now, from experience, I see that at any level you are in business, because you grow, hopefully you grow your income and you grow as a business owner, you're going to meet new challenges. So the mindset is more, how can I grow through my business and through developing these business skills? Something I will always need to do. Otherwise, I don't have clients and I can't do a job that I love. And that was really something that helped me a lot at the beginning, as I was scared to sell my services, as I was scared to communicate. I was like, no, I need to make the moves, because I love so much this job, what I discovered. I want to be able to do it. Like, I want to have clients. And if I want to have clients and have the impact and be able to support people, then I need to do the steps before that are required for a coaching business. So that was really my driver. Every time I faced my fears and my doubts, I was like, this is too important. I discovered something that I love. I want to be able to do that profession. So that was my driver. You might have a different driver, but you will need a driver to move through your fears. As I told you, I got a lot of support. And if as a coach, you don't accept or you are not considering having support, then I'm like, how can you ask your clients to be supported? There needs to be coherence there. At least that's my perspective or my opinion. So if I go back to daily life, every week you have your coaching sessions. That's how I do it. Of course, everyone does it differently. Then time for communication creation, time for admin tasks, time for business developing tasks, and then time for offer creation. Because, well, it depends on the business model you choose. Maybe you want to do a coach that does only single 1 hour sessions and has several clients, and that's it. That's fine. You can do that. But for me, especially now that I am a mom even more, it's a business model that relies so much on you, like just being you there. When you are sick, when other things happen in your life and you're not there, you can't make any income. So that's an issue. I would recommend you to have a business model that supports you. I love the one-on-one sessions. So that's really something I will always keep, but maybe you have a little guide around your specialty that you're selling at a lower price or not, like you decide. So you have other areas of revenue for your business. So I believe that gives you a good indication on the different tasks. Marketing, I didn't mention it that way, but I said business tasks. And then, of course, like networking. When I say networking, is making real connections, because depending on how your business model evolves, maybe you are going to work a lot on collaborations, maybe you want to launch things with other people. It's super important also to have a community of other coaches or the business owners to support yourself in the challenges and the wins. I've always been in communities since I started my coaching, always. Again, I know it's aligned with my design. So you can also go back to your human design. And if you want to know more about your human design, I'm doing readings. I will put the links in the show notes. So here that gives you a good indication. I hope so. I don't know if I've been super precise in how I spend my time, but yeah, I would say half a day coaching and the other time either communication creation, business tasks, admin. Let's say if I say 50% coaching, I would say 25% communication, which for me is around marketing, selling, all these things, and 25% the admin side. No, let's rephrase it. And this is a rough answer. I would say 50% coaching, 15-20% communicating, 15-20% creating new offers, learning, education, and then 5-10% the more admin side, approximately. I'm saying roughly, really, but you have an idea how it looks like. So no, you're not coaching all the time, even though I love it, but there are also other tasks you need to do. What else? Then I was asked an interesting question, which is what surprised me most in that journey. What surprised me most is the work that requires having a business. I believe that's really something I didn't expect and I fully discovered. And I'm so happy I'm doing that experience because it gives me a fully different approach of life, having my business. Even when I look at other businesses, when I'm in the street, I'm going to a shop, I'm like, behind everything, there is a person who believed in herself, in her product, and is selling it. It's a big journey. I have huge respect for people who are entrepreneurs, even more now that I'm a mother. For entrepreneurs who are parents or moms, being an entrepreneur, you're relying more on yourself and your own skills. Like when you're employed, it's not the same. So I have a lot of respect, and I believe it's an interesting experience everyone should have, so that you move in your life in a different way and you do the inner work that requires being successful. I believe because as a coach, you love self-development. I would recommend you seeing having your business as a self-development journey as well, so that you can grow. And that's a big opportunity to grow, having your business. So I'd say that's what surprised me most. I'm asked often, like, what do I like? What I dislike? I love coaching. That's something that is always giving me energy. And as I share in my coachings, like if something is giving you energy, it's a good sign that it's something you could keep on doing. And for me, coaching is never taking my energy, except in a few cases where I had clients who were not super aligned with who I am and didn't fit my way of working, then it's more tiring. But most of my clients, because my communication is reflecting who I am, are very aligned. So you see how it's a filter, actually. How you're communicating is filtering already people who have alignment with your approaches. So that's, I would say, what I love coaching. creating my communication, new offers, all the relationship with my clients is amazing. The impact you're having, and beyond them, it's not the right way to phrase it. The impact you're having of like feeling you're in service and feeling you're helping people. That's a feeling everyone would need to have on a daily basis to feel their life is meaningful. What I dislike, I said it also before, is more the admin side, legal side, also all the, there are parts of the business side that are really not mine. And what I really don't like is, I really don't like to spend time on that, is learning about the new algorithm on Instagram, all these things. For me, tiring, they change all the time, and it's a profession in itself. That's why I didn't at the beginning, have someone who is doing that for me. So having a virtual assistant or a social media expert, if that's not something you like, I would recommend finding someone. And I took a lot of time to hire someone to help me. You might want to consider it earlier so that you have more time, headspace, energy for the things you like. What else? Oh, yes. So now the financial side. When could I live from my business? It's fun because you never made it. I feel, at least. Even like for coaches who are much further than me, they themselves say, of course, they have systems that are stable and so on, but they themselves say, oh, what happens if next month I'm not able to create that income? Like, don't think, okay, everything I create is forever and once I got it. No, because the market is evolving, clients are evolving, the society is evolving. You might have created an amazing offer that is then not relevant anymore. You constantly need to renew yourself, which makes it interesting and not boring. You will need to always work on that business side. And you can also learn to love it more. And I'm also learning still to love some sides more and more. I'm trying to. But when could I live from my coaching? So again, I'm doing by memory. I would need to sit with my numbers, but after 6 months, 1 year, and some coaches do it like very fast, because again, it depends on what has been your experience so far. Did you work on your business from the beginning with a business coach or some business support? The right business support as well, because you can invest in business trainings which are not aligned, and I know a lot about that. I can give you many examples. So that's why here again, I would advise you really to do human designs and Gene Keys readings for your business, so that from the beginning you create something that is aligned for who you are. It depends also on how many experiences you've had in your life so far. Maybe you are going to sell coaching services around something you already did in a company as an employed person, so then it's easier to translate. It depends if you already feel at ease with the idea of selling, presenting yourself. Really, it's a very personal journey. Some people will take more time, less time, but it's feasible if, again, you do that work around your business and positioning. And that's something I had to learn. It's not because you're a good coach that you are going to have clients. Of course, every client that is happy can refer you, and that's already something big. And I would really focus on making your clients happy. That's the most important thing. Though there are some amazing coaches who don't live from their business because they are not doing the other side, which is the work around yourself, positioning. And there are some people who are amazing marketers, like they're really good at marketing, and not amazing coaches, but who have a lot of money. So marketing is a key, and that's something you need to work around. That's one side. And the other side, because it's not just a strategic, technical, and that's something I've learned, is how much do you own the power of your work, your skills? How much are you really embodying, is the word, your talent, so that it's shining through your communication? And again, I'm giving you the whole journey. I know if you are just starting, it's maybe too far, but it's until I worked with someone who taught me about human design and Gene Keys that I really started to realize my true gifts, who I am specifically as a coach, how I work, so that I could come into calls, into my communication with that awareness of, I know exactly what I'm good at. And that shines then through and makes you magnetic and attractive. So work on yourself so that you're really mastering skills in certain areas that you can then sell. So what's the inner work you've done to be where you are, and how can that help other people? One question that I didn't talk about, though, is important. Sometimes people tell me there are already so many coaches, like why should I become a coach, or is there enough space on the market? That's really not my approach. Like when you ask yourself this question, it means you're looking outside on the market and wondering, like, it's an outside approach. I have an inside approach. It's like, do you feel called to do that profession? Do you have an intuition telling you like that's the next step for you? Do you feel at ease when you're supporting people? Do you feel like that's something you would like to spend more time on, or your days? That's driving you. It's not, oh, there are opportunities on the market or there are not. Because I believe if that's your path, then you will find a way to make it work. I really believe if we do steps that are aligned with our soul's path, who we are, our talents, then doors are going to open up. Of course, we need to do work in our work to make it happen. But like, if that's your path, you're going to find out. When you say like there are already so many coaches, yes, but no one is like you. So if you work around your specificity, your specific impact, again, look at your human design and gene keys. I've repeated it enough time. Your past experiences as well. Then you will hear, what makes me specific? I've had this kind of experience combined with this kind of experience and that life experience and that lessons. And here's what happens every time I am talking with someone. Then there is only one coach like you. So you are not competing anymore with everyone. And then what kind of solutions are you offering? Is it around emotional work? Is it time management? What is it? And you can start with something small and specific or not. Like that's something then you need to find out. Maybe it's too advanced if you are at the very beginning of your journey. But my answer is, if you feel called to become a coach, if you feel called to do that profession, you will find a way to make it work. And if you're wondering, like, are there too many people? Will I make a living from it? As I started coaching, I was reading studies that said that, I can't remember, is it 70% of the coaches who don't live from, or maybe even more, who don't live from their profession, like they can't make a living from coaching. And when you read that, you're like, oh shit, okay. But I decided to spend time on looking at coaches who were making a living from their coaching. So I spent time on people who were making it so I would understand, how can I make it happen? If you spend time looking at people who don't make it, having conversation with people who don't make it, you will be hard to make it. It's as simple as that. So follow, work with people who are making a living from it so that you can create that for yourself. And be ready to do that inner work, to know yourself so deeply that you can explain who you are, your services, how you are impacting people, so that they will want to work with you. Be ready, but I believe that's something you will love, to grow as a coach, as a professional, as a human being, so that you can bring your clients further and further. That's the magic of this work. Like every week I have something new that I learned, that I've integrated, that I want to share with clients or new clients. I could spend my time doing that only. Know, now that you heard this episode, that there is a business side, and it's better for you to spend time for that. Learn to go over your fears. There will be gifts as well into that, and you can hate something and love it later on. That's what I shared with my experience around social media. And nothing is forever. Even today, there are moments where I'm like, oh, maybe I'm going to quit social media. Sometimes it doesn't feel aligned. Like it's a journey with ups and downs, and that's fine. So that was what I wanted to share. I hope this is helpful for you. Don't hesitate if you have other questions. I'm very happy to answer them. Please send it to anyone who is considering coaching. And the big conclusion is, follow your heart's desire. And maybe doing a coaching training is the first step, and the next one will be another one. You don't know what can come out from there. Sometimes you do the coaching training and it's years later that you become a coach, or you do a coaching training and then you find out, oh, it's actually something else. I had that in one of the episodes. I think it's episode 16, yes, with Annalie, where she shared like, oh, I did this coaching training in functional medicine. So to show you like how specific it can be. And she's like, I coach, but I realized, oh no, I'm not a coach. I'm more a teacher, which I could also know from her human design. So she found out, no, I'm actually more a teacher. And that's fine, because the coaching training she got helped her in other ways. Maybe you're more consultant. So that's something you want to dig deeper. If you want to do a human design reading with me or a Gene Keys reading, I put the link in comment, and I hope this helped you, and I wish you really to take the path that is most aligned for you, that feels good, because you deserve it, and especially we need you to fulfill your gifts so that you have the impact that is needed for the world. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining the Inner Space. Make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, or share it with someone who might need exactly this encouragement. And until next time, keep exploring your inner space, where authenticity sets you free.